Have you ever bought one new item and suddenly felt like everything else in your house looked old? Maybe it was a new pair of shoes that made your favorite jeans look faded, or perhaps a new television that made your entire living room furniture feel outdated. If you have felt this way, you are not alone. You have fallen into a psychological trap that has been capturing human minds for over 250 years. In the late 1700s, there was a famous French philosopher named Denis Diderot. For most of his life, Diderot lived in poverty. He was a brilliant man, but he had very little money to show for his work. That changed when the Empress of Russia, Catherine the Great, heard of his financial struggles. She admired his mind and decided to buy his entire library. She also gave him a large sum of money as an advance. Suddenly, Diderot was no longer poor. To celebrate his new wealth, he bought himself a beautiful scarlet robe. It was the most elegant thing he had ever owned. But that beautiful robe was the beginning of his downfall. When Diderot sat in his old wooden chair while wearing his new robe, he felt uncomfortable. The chair looked cheap and ugly next to the scarlet fabric, so he bought a new leather chair to match the robe. Then he looked at his old desk. The desk was scarred and worn out. He felt it was an insult to his new chair and his elegant robe. He went out and bought a magnificent new writing desk. But now his rugs looked dusty and his wall hangings looked drab. One by one, he replaced every item in his home to match the standards of that first scarlet robe. By the end of the year, Diderot was in debt and surrounded by expensive things he never really needed. He later wrote an essay titled, "Regrets on Parting with My Old Dressing Gown." He warned his readers to beware of the contagion of sudden wealth. Today, economists call this phenomenon the Diderot Effect. It is a social phenomenon related to consumer goods. It happens because our brains crave something called aesthetic consistency. We want the things we own to tell a single, unified story about who we are. When we introduce a new item that is much higher in quality than what we already have, it creates a mismatch. This mismatch causes a strange kind of mental pain. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. To stop the pain, we do not return the new item. Instead, we spend more money to upgrade everything else around it. This is why you spend more money than you think you do. You are not just buying a product. You are buying into a spiral of consumption. Think about the last time you bought a new smartphone. It starts with the device itself, but then the salesman tells you that you need a protective case. You buy the case to protect your expensive investment. Then you realize your old wired headphones do not work with the new model. So you buy a pair of wireless earbuds. A week later, you notice your charging cable is too slow. You buy a high-speed charger. Now you have spent hundreds of dollars more than the price of the phone. This is the modern Diderot spiral in action. It happens because our brains are hardwired for social signaling. We use our possessions to tell the world who we are and where we stand. When one part of that signal changes, the rest feels like a lie. This creates an internal pressure to fix the broken narrative. It happens in every part of our lives, from our offices to our kitchens. Think about home renovations. You decide to replace a leaky faucet in your kitchen. The new faucet is shiny and modern. Suddenly, your old sink looks stained and scratched. You decide to replace the sink. But now the new sink makes the old countertops look cheap. You find yourself looking at samples of granite and marble. Before you know it, a $50 repair has turned into a $5,000 kitchen remodel. We are programmed to believe that the next purchase will finally make us feel complete. But the Diderot spiral has no natural ending point. The more we upgrade, the more things we find that need upgrading. Consider the world of fitness and health. You buy a new pair of high-performance running shoes. Suddenly, your old cotton t-shirts feel heavy and sweaty. You go online and buy moisture-wicking athletic gear. Then you realize your old gym bag does not look professional enough. You buy a new bag with specialized compartments. Now you feel you need a smartwatch to track your heart rate. By the time you actually start running, you have spent a small fortune. The retail industry understands this better than we do. They do not just sell products. They sell lifestyles and ecosystems. They want you to buy the first item so that the spiral can begin. This is especially true in the age of social media. Every day, we are flooded with images of perfect homes and perfect outfits. These images set a high standard for what our lives should look like. When we buy one small thing to mimic those images, we trigger the mismatch. We feel an urgent need to catch up with a lifestyle we see on a screen. It is called lifestyle creep. As our income grows, our expectations for what is normal grow even faster. The luxury of yesterday becomes the necessity of today. We forget that we were perfectly happy with our old things just a week ago. Our brains suffer from something called the hedonic treadmill. We run faster and spend more just to stay at the same level of happiness. Every new purchase gives us a small burst of dopamine, but that feeling is temporary and always fades away. To get that feeling back, we look for the next thing to upgrade. We become trapped in a loop of wanting rather than enjoying. So how do we break the cycle? How do we stop the scarlet robe from ruining our bank accounts? The first step is to practice what experts call strategic inconsistency. This means giving yourself permission to own things that do not match. It is okay to have a brand new computer on an old scratched desk. It is okay to wear a nice watch with an old, comfortable pair of sneakers. When you accept that your environment does not have to be perfect, you take away the power of the spiral. You tell yourself that your worth is not tied to the harmony of your furniture. The second strategy is the 30-day rule. When you feel the urge to buy something that will require other upgrades, wait. Write the item down on a piece of paper and put it in a drawer. Wait 30 days before you click the buy button. Usually, the initial excitement of the purchase will fade. You will realize that the item is a seed for a new spiral that you do not want to start. This wait allows your rational brain to catch up with your emotional impulses. The third strategy is the one in, one out rule. For every new item that enters your home, one old item must leave. This forces you to consider the true cost of your purchases. It prevents the accumulation of stuff that triggers the need for more stuff. It makes you ask if the new item is truly better than what you already own. Another powerful tool is to avoid the initial trigger. Be mindful of the environments that tempt you to spend. Limit your time on shopping websites and social media feeds that spark envy. If you do not see the scarlet robe, you will not feel the need to replace your chair. Finally, we must learn to appreciate the beauty of the old dressing gown. Diderot missed his old robe because it was broken in and comfortable. It did not demand anything from him. It did not tell him he was not good enough. Our old things have history and character. They have served us well through the years. They represent who we actually are, not who we are trying to pretend to be. When we constantly seek the new, we lose our connection to the things that actually matter. True wealth is not measured by the consistency of our furniture. It is measured by our freedom from the need to impress others. It is measured by the peace of mind that comes from being debt-free. Real satisfaction comes from the quality of our experiences, not our possessions. Look around your room right now. Is there an object that started a chain reaction of spending in your life? Maybe it was a car, a piece of jewelry, or even a new hobby. Think about that object and the money that followed it. Ask yourself if that spiral made you truly happier, or did it just make you busier and more stressed? The next time you are tempted by a shiny new purchase, remember Denis Diderot. Choose to be the master of your things rather than a slave to them. Focus on the utility of an item rather than its status. Celebrate the mismatched and the imperfect.
Hạnh phúc không nằm ở việc nâng cấp đồ đạc để khớp với món đồ mới nhất. Nó nằm ở việc hài lòng với những gì đã phục vụ tốt cho bạn.
Look around your room right now. Which object started a chain reaction that you now regret? Tell me its story in the comments below. I want to hear about your scarlet robe. If you found this helpful, you should understand the invisible thieves of the digital age. Watch our next video on how credit cards mute your brain's pain receptors. This content is for informational purposes only and does not replace professional financial advice. Please consult with a financial advisor before making major financial decisions.